Your grandfather signed a document in 1971. He was 44 years old. His attorney drafted it. His accountant reviewed it. Three people in a room on a Tuesday afternoon made a decision that still controls $31 million in assets today. Your grandfather has been dead for 19 years. The document is still operating. It is still generating distributions. It is still influencing decisions about capital that 4 people in your family will one day receive. You are one of those 4 people. You found out 2 years ago. The document was signed before your mother was born. Level 1. The beneficiary. Age 18. First awareness. You are named a beneficiary of an irrevocable trust at birth. You learn this at 18, when a trust officer calls to inform you that you are eligible for distributions for qualified educational expenses. You do not know what an irrevocable trust is. You do not know what qualified educational expenses means in the context of trust law. You know that $80,000 appears in an account marked for your tuition, and that your friends are taking out federal student loans. The trust is structured as a discretionary spendthrift trust. Discretionary means the trustee, an independent corporate trustee, not a family member, has sole discretion over whether to make any distribution, how much, and when. Spendthrift means you cannot assign your interest in the trust to a creditor. If you go into debt, your creditors cannot reach the trust assets. You cannot pledge your beneficial interest as collateral. The trust is designed to protect you from yourself, from creditors, and from future ex-spouses. The grantor, your grandfather, anticipated problems you had not yet had a chance to create. The trustee has declined 3 distribution requests from another family beneficiary in the last 4 years. You don't know this. The trustee cannot tell you. The decisions are confidential, but they affect the trust's remaining capital, and therefore your eventual distributions. The discretionary trust is not a bank account. It is a living governance mechanism with rules you haven't fully read yet. Level 2. The aware beneficiary. Age 28. Understanding the structure. At 28, you request a full copy of the trust instrument. Not the summary the trust officer provided. The original document. 47 pages of legal language drafted in 1971, amended twice, with a restatement in 2003. You hire a trust and estate attorney to explain it to you. You learn several things that reframe how you think about your financial life. The trust has a distribution standard, ascertainable standard language requiring distributions to be limited to your health, education, maintenance, and support in reasonable comfort. This language is not accidental. It is a federal tax standard that, if satisfied, allows the trust to avoid being included in your taxable estate when you die. Your grandfather's attorney chose this language in 1971 specifically to compress estate taxes across multiple generations. You also learn the trust is a generation-skipping trust. Assets distributed directly to you will be part of your taxable estate. Assets that pass to your children at your death, however, skip your estate entirely and pass transfer tax-free, using the generation-skipping transfer tax exemption your grandfather allocated at the trust's creation. The structure was designed to move wealth efficiently across 3 generations. You are Generation 2. Your children are Generation 3. The document anticipated them before your parents had you. If the architecture of how trusts are actually designed to move wealth across generations is more complex and more intentional than you expected, this is the level of detail this channel operates at. Subscribe and like the video. We're going deeper into the mechanics that most beneficiaries never understand until it's too late to use them. Level 3. The co-trustee. Age 38. Accepting fiduciary responsibility. At 38, the original corporate trustee invites you to serve as a co-trustee of a newer family trust, one established by your parents with assets they have accumulated outside the grandfather trust. As a co-trustee, you carry fiduciary duties, loyalty, prudence, impartiality, and the duty to account. These are legal obligations, not suggestions. A breach of fiduciary duty, even an inadvertent one, exposes you to personal liability. The prudent investor rule governs how you invest the trust's assets. You cannot concentrate the portfolio in a single security, even a family business you know well. You must diversify. You must consider the trust's time horizon, the beneficiary's needs, and the trust's tax situation in every investment decision. You must document every decision. The investment policy statement you adopt for the trust becomes the evidentiary record of your prudence if a beneficiary ever challenges a decision in court. And beneficiaries do challenge decisions, more often than people expect. Level 4. The trustee. Age 45. Sole fiduciary authority. You are the sole trustee of a trust holding $8.4 million. The beneficiaries are your two siblings. You sit between them and the money. You decide whether distributions are made. You decide how the portfolio is invested. You decide when to consult legal counsel and when to act independently. Your siblings do not always agree with your decisions. One wants more liquidity, more frequent distributions for lifestyle expenses you consider outside the trust support standard. The other wants a more aggressive investment allocation than the trust's investment policy statement permits. You are not their financial advisor. You are their fiduciary. The distinction matters every time a decision creates friction. When the disagreements escalate, you hire an independent trust protector, a neutral third party with defined powers to modify the trust's administrative provisions, replace the trustee, and mediate family disputes. The trust protector is not a mediator. They are a constitutional provision with actual enforcement power. Level 5. The grantor. Age 55. Creating the structure. You are establishing your own irrevocable trust. Your estate attorney has presented 5 structural options. A grantor retained annuity trust. You transfer appreciating assets into the trust and receive a fixed annuity payment for a defined term. If the assets appreciate faster than the IRS's Section 7520 rate, the excess appreciation passes to your heirs transfer tax-free. A spousal lifetime access trust. An irrevocable trust that names your spouse as a discretionary beneficiary, allowing the trust to use your full lifetime exemption while preserving indirect family access to the assets. An intentionally defective grantor trust, a trust that is outside your estate for transfer tax purposes but treated as your property for income tax purposes, allowing you to pay the income tax on trust earnings and thereby make an additional tax-free gift to your heirs equal to the tax liability you absorb. You choose a combination. Your estate attorney files the documents. Your trustee is a corporate trust company. Your trust protector is your attorney. The document is 63 pages. It will operate for 100 years under the rule against perpetuities law of the jurisdiction your attorney selected, a state with no RAP limitation. You sign on a Tuesday afternoon. You are the same age your grandfather was when he signed in 1971. The document will outlive everyone in the room. That is the point. A trust is the container. A family office is the engine. Private equity is where the returns are generated. And in the next video, I take you inside private equity from the very beginning, the 24-year-old building models until 2 a.m., all the way to the managing partner who decides which companies live and which companies get restructured. Every level, every incentive, every number, and the one fee structure that most LPs pay without fully understanding what they've agreed to.